Hello and welcome back to the 2D RPG with Cree. That's me. So today we actually have a request from a viewer, Jim RVC, and on his request he said, "Can you create a tutorial for traps like spikes or moving saw in a top-down view?" Sure thing. So I went ahead and created a little visual flowchart here. So we got the traps that we want. We're obviously going to need a player and the trap itself to interact with each other. And we're going to do that by having a trigger that's exclusive to the trap. And then we're also going to have a player that has a controller, stats, and damage that's directly going to correlate to the trap and back on itself. So get Unity loaded up and open up a new 2D scene. We have a trap tutorial here. So that's exactly, what we're based on, the traps, and that's what I'm calling it. So what we need to do is first pull in all of our assets. So we have the spike that we're going to use. We have the flooring that we're going to use. And then we got our little arcade guy that we always use. So after we got in there, we have to go ahead and set these up like we always do. So you guys know that I do 32 pixels per unit for my guys. And we're going to do a multiple for this and slice him up. And we're just going to do an automatic center slice for this to make it quick. And there it goes. So let's just apply that. Let's make sure we do the same for our flooring, 32 pixels. We'll apply that. And then for our spike flooring, we're going to go ahead and get 32 pixels on there and apply that. So we're all good to go as far as all of our assets go and our sprites go. So let's go ahead and get our arcade guy in here. Let's get over to our scene so it lets us drag him in. We're going to actually create window 2D tile palette and create a new palette. There's the daughter going. She's helping us out today with the video. And we're just going to name it floor. And then this is going to save into your asset as a scene. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that there. And then let's drag in, oh, that's empty. Let's drag in our dojo floor and save that in the same place. And then we can actually go to game object and a 2D object and make a tile map. So we're going to do that. And then we can just come in here and just fill her up. Let's go all the way to the edge so we don't get that little blue space. There we go. So let's set this guy and the inspector. He's on 0. Let's make sure arcade guy's at 1, just so he's above it. Ta-da. And then, of course, we're going to want our spike, a little playful spike that I made. Oh, and there's another view of it. But anyway, we're going to bring it in just like that. So we're all set up and ready to go here as far as what we need on the front end. So what do we need on top of this? Of course, our handy dandy code. So we're going to add our add-ons to this, our box collider and our rigid body. Make sure they're both 2D. We're going to change this gravity scale to 0. And then we're going to constrain him on X, Y, and Z so he don't spin and do backflips. And then we're going to go to our spike, do the same thing. Give him a rigid body 2D. Constraint. Oh, yeah, X, Y, Z is supposed to be on this one. We want this guy to be able to move X and Y. Sorry about that. We just don't want him spinning. And then we need to go ahead and add a box collider this as well. And then we can go ahead and make those scripts. This one's going to be a trigger though, because we don't want to walk into it and just not be able to go through it like a collider is supposed to be done. It's actually going to be a trigger so we can walk over it and trigger the damage effects. So let's go ahead and add our new script. And this one's going to be the spike controller. Excuse me. And we're going to go ahead and load up Visual Studios here. Let it load a minute. There we go. And we can close this. We don't need all that junk. And then we need a player controller. So let's add a component. New script. We'll name that one player controller. if we could spell. Sweet. So we're just gonna wait for those to load here. It looks like it didn't want to pull the player controller up, just spec controller. So let's double click that again. There we go. So just like any player controller, we want it to be able to move. So we need to go ahead and set up all the components that we need to move with our rigid bodies and our horizontal and verticals and our movements and our speed. So we can start that out with our private rigid body 2D. And then we're just going to make this player body is what we'll call it. Call it whatever you want. Just make sure you stay consistent with what you're naming things. So then for that, we're going to need the private float, and we got to do our vertical and our horizontal. So we will say move player horizontal. Oops, horizontal. We'll do our move player vertical, and this new version of Visual Studios is awesome because it kind of text predicts for you. And then there you go. We need a float, and we're gonna make this one. It says move, but we're gonna make it movement instead of move player move speed. So we'll just name this movement. Just personal preference. And actually, it's not a float. We want this one to be a vector 2. Awesome, awesome. My key sticks there. I gotta get a new keyboard, but we'll make it work. Okay, so also, as we saw on that flow chart, we're gonna want to have a float here that is health, but I think I'm gonna make that public so we can change it and play around with it instead of private. All right, cool. So what else do we need? We need our actual float speed, and there it is. This is awesome. We're gonna call this. Usually we go with 4.0. We'll see how that works. And then we need a damage. So in our flowchart, we also had a damage. So we're going to call public float damage amount because we're actually going to have a subclass called damage. So we don't want to mess that up. Damage B mount. That's funny. All right. Anyway, so when we start this bad boy up, we're going to start with a value of 100, but we can, since it's public, we can go ahead and change it in the Unity Hub, or we can change it actually here, whatever you're more comfortable with, but I'm going to show both. So we're just going to take health and set that equal to 100. And then we need an awake function in here. So there's that. In awake, we want to take our rigid body. So there's our player body. And then we're going to do, we could do it this way, that's on screen here, but I'm actually going to do it a different way. It's the same exact thing. You can code things 100 different ways and have it have the same effect. So we're actually going to say rigid body 2D, and then we're going to do get component afterwards. So get component, and then you could do it this way as well, but I am actually going to do type of, right there, type of rigid body 2D. See, it knows exactly what I'm trying to do, and that is awesome. So we're getting the player body, and we're setting an equal to the type of rigid body that is attached to this game object from the player body. So we're going to come down to our update, and we need to set values for our X and Y movement for our player horizontal and our player vertical. So we're going to update those. We got our move player horizontal equals, no, it does not equal move player vertical. Be going in a diagonal line there. So we're going to say input not axis, and we're going to use the pre-built system that Unity has for ASWD and the arrow keys with horizontal, and that's pre-built into every project. And then we're going to do the same thing for vertical. vertical equals input dot get access. We don't want a raw. We're gonna call all vertical, and that needs to be capitalized. And then we need to set our movement to our vector 2, new vector 2, and move horizontal by player move vertical. Sweet. So we got all that updated, and then we got to put some speed behind that. So we're going to say player body dot velocity equals movement times speed. And if we go ahead and save this, we should be able to move around. Awesome. So now we can move around here. Like I was talking about, if we took the trigger off of this, now there's a collider and we can't go through it, but we want to trigger it. So we're going to leave it how it is like that. And let's, we need to damage ourselves, right? So we have health in here. Let's make that damage function. Actually, let me pull this up first. And then we're going to implement that here and then add the damage. So we can leave this as a mono behavior. And let's see here. We want our start. We can get rid of our update function. We're going to want an on trigger enter. So public, these can be private. Private void on trigger enter 2D. And then we're going to want exit. So for what we're doing here, I'm going to have an enter. So this isn't going to be here. You're going to walk over it. It's going to pop up. Then when you walk off it, it's going to disappear. So it's like a reusable trap. Or if you just want it to spring the trap and stay the trap, or stay sprung, sorry, you won't do this next part. But for purposes of this video, I'm going to make it go away so we can have the trap come back. So private void on trigger exit. There we go. So then these you can also name whatever. I know a lot of people do other. Looks like it defaults to collision now, so we'll just use collision. But let's go ahead and get this updated. So we're going to say collision. And then we want to get the component. Oops, dot component. And then this is where we're going to do the damage. So we want to call player controller. And then we're going to make a function called damage. Not damage amount, just damage. And then that. So that's what I was talking about previously. I'm going to add a new void in here. Make it public so it can be accessed. Public void damage. And then we gotta put our little brackets there, in parentheses. And then for damage, all we need to do is our health minus equal the damage amount, which we're gonna set in the hub. And then we're gonna add a slider to this too, but we'll add that code here in a second. Let's save that. And there we go. So on trigger enter, we're gonna get damaged here. So let's go ahead and test that. We might need to put a damage value in here. So we'll say 10 just for a default. So as we can see, we'll come over here. Oh, and it's not happening yet. What did we miss? Did I take the trigger off on accident? Trigger. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so private void on trigger enter collision 2D. We got our collision dot get component player controller, and we want to cause damage. right? Oh, was it because I didn't save it? Let's try that. Always make sure to hit that pesky save. There it goes. Simple error. So yeah, we can see here our damage is going down. Our health is decreasing. So we could change this to 5 just for purposes here, and it'll go down 5 instead. So 25, 20, 15, 10. There it goes. So that's awesome. Our script is working just as we intend it to. But like I said, we want that trigger. So coming back to the flow chart, you got this trigger that we want. I'm going to go ahead and set that up. Come back into our code. So on start, we want this game object that this script is attached to. Sorry. And we want to get the component of the renderer. So we're going to say get component renderer, and right there, enabled false. So now what this code does is when we start up, this is going to be gone. Ta-da. So now it is a trap. So then we're going to do the same exact thing on collision enter. We want it to pop up. So game object dot get component renderer dot enabled equals true. That came over there. Let's get that back where it belongs. And then on trigger exit, I want this trap to spring again. So then we're going to say game object dot get component renderer, not a reducer, renderer, rendered. You got to spell right. Jeez. Okay, we made it through it. And we're going to say enabled equals false. So now, when we come in here, our trap is going to be gone to start. We're going to walk over it. Bam. We hit it. We lost health. And we walk away and it's gone. Bam. 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 So there's the basic application of what we need. So I was telling you guys I promised we'd add that health bar. So let's just do a simple one super quick here. I'm going to go to UI. I'm going to go to slider. And it's going to be big and not where we want it. So let's get this actually up in the upper right hand corner. See if it goes for us or not. Nope. That's fine. We'll go ahead and move it ourselves. So we'll throw it right there. Come into the slider. We want this handle to be gone. So we'll go ahead and delete the handle. We don't need the slide area. So fill, we can change to a nice red. Background, we can change to a nice black. And then we're going to set this max value to 100 to match our health. So we could code this too, but I'm just going to do this now because it is fast and easy. And I'm just showing you guys that it works here. So we're going to trim this down, make that look nice. Okay, cool. So now we got a health bar. So we need to be able to reference that health bar. So we're going to come in here. We're going to add a slider. So public slider. Slider, and we need to add the package for that. So let's go ahead using Unity Engine UI. Awesome. So now that we got that, our slider is here. And then when damage calculation happens, we just want to take our slider value and have it equal our health. As easy as that. So what this does is it's going to change the slider value, wherever our slider is again. And it's going to change this value to equal whatever our player's health is over here. So let's go ahead and test that out. And now we're going to hit our trap. Oh, we forgot to do. Add our slider to our guy. So here's our slider. Take them, drag them in. Cool. Let's clear out this code and try again. And now she'll work. So there the trap goes. We lost health here. Our health went down. There it goes. And there's a spike trap. So you could do the same thing with sawmills. Have a sawmill come down if you go over a certain tile. Um, I can go over animations in another video if you'd like me to. Just let me know. But yeah, so this is the simple spike trap. And we're losing our health, and we got a trap. All right. Thank you for joining us today, and I'd love to see you guys next time.